So I believe that I'm comfortable with certain risks. Okay, I'm comfortable with certain risks. And I think when you have a lead in your industry, Tiger Woods, he changed clubs. He changed clubs because he was so dominant. I used to work at a company called ESPN. They did this thing called ESPN The Phone. And they got a lot of heat for losing $50 million. But ESPN, there was no FS1. They didn't have a rival in the cable industry. NBC wasn't there yet. CBS didn't have it. Fox didn't have it. They were making $8 billion a year. And ESPN owed their shareholders the opportunity to get into the phone business. Because if it won and it hit, it would, too, become an $8 billion a year industry. It didn't. It lost $50 million. Who gives a rip? When you're a company making $8 billion a year, that's a rounding error, but they owed it. Vince McMahon, the XFL. Research shows spring football can work in America. NFL teams don't carry a third quarterback. You'll have quarterbacks for it. Now, you have cable companies in sports fighting for content. Spring football. He runs $1 billion a year industry in wrestling. He owes it to himself to try spring football again here with Fox. So what if it whiffs? He loses $200 million. His company makes $9 billion a year globally. Who gives a rip? This is why McDonald's tried McLobster and McDonald's tried McPizza. They have such a lead on Wendy's and Burger King. And I also think this works with bands. U2. You know, Hall of Famers, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, legends, they're all worth $400 million net worth. So they went in with Apple, and they totally rolled the dice on this thing where they didn't tell anybody, and all of a sudden you woke up one day, and on your iTunes, you had a U2 song that you could never delete. It bombed. Bono apologized. But they're still getting into the Hall of Fame. Eddie Murphy, Pluto Nash, had so many credits. He rolled the dice in an action comedy set in 2087. It was a huge swing, and it bombed. Eddie Murphy owed Eddie Murphy. U2 owed U2 those risks. When you're a legend, swing, baby, swing. Aaron Rodgers has become safe. Led the NFL in throwaways. He doesn't throw any interceptions. His QBR in the last 4 years, he's not a top 10 quarterback. We know he's talented, but Aaron has to take big swings this weekend. Last week, Minnesota played scared. Kirk Cousins checked down. No big shots down the field. 2-run centric. You don't beat Mike Tyson until you can get Mike Tyson off you. And you get him off you by doing what Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield did. Swinging big early. Aaron Rodgers has become too safe. Whatever it is, 4 or 5 years ago, he became paralyzed by not throwing picks and throwing it away. You got to throw Aaron to more than Devontae Adams. You're going to have to throw to, somebody beyond that because San Francisco, their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, is 3-0 this year when he's had 2 or more interceptions. Garoppolo has a better roster and will take big swings. I've said this about Jimmy G. The gap between Jimmy G and Aaron Rodgers is not nearly as big as you think, and I'm not sure there is one. Because Jimmy G understands when you have a defense as good as I have and you have a coach like Kyle Shanahan, you got to swing, baby. You got to take some risks. You owe it to yourself. Aaron Rodgers has become safe. Ooh, he doesn't throw picks. Who gives a rip? In the only year Aaron Rodgers had double-digit interceptions, he won the Super Bowl. He used to have a little gunslinger in him. He no longer does. Patrick Mahomes does. Lamar Jackson's got a little gunslinger. Carson Wentz does. Aaron doesn't, and you're not beating San Francisco unless you roll the dice. By the way, Aaron, you throw 3 picks this weekend, and you lose a wild one. You're still going to the Hall of Fame first ballot. You're not losing your State Farm commercials. You were 6-0 in division. You still are the best quarterback in your division. Chicago can't figure out quarterback. Detroit's quarterback's banged up, and it's Kirk Cousins who you beat twice this year. But I think once you're U2 or Apple or Eddie Murphy, a big band, a big star, a big company, McDonald's, and you're already in. You got your net worth, you got your Super Bowl, you got your Hall of Fame, you got your commercials, you own your division. Swing, baby. Take some big cuts. And Aaron's become incredibly safe. No chance to win if he does it this weekend. All right, let me talk about Andy Reid, who you know I have great affection for. I think he's amazing. And I have defended Andy Reid for a long time. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes said yesterday, he said, I think I want to win this more for Andy Reid than I want to win it for me. This is cool. One of the reasons I've defended Andy Reid, because he had Donovan McNabb, he had Jeff Garcia and Michael Vick. Solid, not spectacular. And he faced Kurt Warner in his prime. He faced Aaron Rodgers. He lost once to the Aaron Rodgers Packers team that won the Super Bowl. He lost to Drew Brees, an all-time Hall of Fame quarterback in New Orleans. He lost to in Philadelphia. He went to a Super Bowl and lost to Brady in his prime and Belichick. He lost to the greatest show on turf. Remember that team? He lost to that team in Philadelphia. He lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneer 2002 defense, which may be the best defense ever. He was losing with Michael Vick, Donovan McNabb, Jeff Garcia, good, not spectacular quarterbacks, to legendary defenses and legendary offenses and legendary quarterbacks. Then he has Alex Smith, and he goes over to the AFC. And he loses to Tom Brady again, and he loses to Andrew Luck in the playoffs, and he loses to Big Ben and the Steelers in the playoffs. And I'm like, and then he loses to New England in overtime, and I'm like, okay, with Alex Smith. So I have defended him because I think he's had B quarterbacks, and I'm not saying he hasn't had a couple of ugly losses. He lost to Jake Delhomme over in Philadelphia. Okay, he had a better team, and he lost to Marcus Mariota in a game he should have won. I'm not saying he hasn't had an ugly loss, but never forget this. Jimmy Johnson with the Cowboys, 2 Super Bowls, 7-1 in the playoffs, because he had Troy Aikman. How did Jimmy Johnson do in Miami? Well, he had a winning record, but he had a losing playoff record. Why? Because Dan Marino was old and broken down. And Troy Aikman, in his prime, is way better than Dan Marino out of his prime. So even Jimmy Johnson, who just got elected into the Hall of Fame or put into the Hall of Fame, you go into the playoffs with the second-best quarterback, you're not, or the second-best roster, you're not going to win. But this weekend it changes. Patrick Mahomes is now the Kurt Warner, the Breeze, the Brady, the Big Ben. That Andy's got the best quarterback. Andy's going to have the best quarterback for the next 7 to 10 years as long as he coaches in these AFC games, and often in the Super Bowl too. Because the NFC may never have, Russell Wilson's up there, but Patrick Mahomes is here. It's a gap between Patrick and 95% of the quarterbacks in this league. In fact, I think there's a big gap between Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, who everybody loves. So I have defended him forever, but now the tables are turning. Now he's got the quarterback, and now if Andy loses this weekend to Ryan Tannehill, now you can hammer him. Now the gloves, you can take them off. I'll criticize Andy if Monday I'm coming to this show and they lose at home to Ryan Tannehill. Because for years I've said with Andy, give me a break on this. You're losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. You're losing to the greatest show on turf. You're losing to Belichick. You're losing to Breeze and Kurt Warner. I got no problem with those players. You didn't have the quarterback. Now you do. Pressure's on. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.